from. This global divide coincided with the partition of India, and the two blocs had choices, just as post-partition India and Pakistan had theirs to make. Just out of the shadow of colonialism, an idealist India chose its own side, that of non-alignment. Tomes have been written on the merits of this choice. But for our present, suffice to say that we took the road less traveled. Pakistan made a clear decision, that of joining the American bloc by signing up for SEATO and CENTO, the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization and the Central Treaty Organization, respectively. Add to it Pandit Nehru's predilection for Fabian socialism from his days in Europe and some favorable impressions of the Soviet plan model from a visit to Moscow even before independence. And India found itself closer at heart to Russia than to Uncle Sam. The military hardware just followed, much like other stuff. The Attlee government, its South Asia policy controlled by pro-Pakistan State Secretary Philip Noel Baker, found Nehru to be imperious and difficult to deal with, and Pakistan willing to walk the extra mile. The Americans just followed the Brits. The bilateral start was cold. Washington's ambassador to New Delhi, Loy Henderson, couldn't come to like Nehru, and the dislike was mutual. India also refused to toe American line. On the United Nations Commission on India and Pakistan, UNCIP, for example, even asking its 18 American members to leave, adding to American distaste. When the Truman administration gave way to Eisenhower, his Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, had scant regard for India's non-alignment. He was a determined cold warrior associated with ideas like brinkmanship. He found Nehru to be an utterly impractical statesman and Pakistan's anti-communist stance very pleasing. The cold start had led to the setting of a deep freeze in India-United States relations. Parallelly, it had created a favorable US-Pakistan axis. As early as 1954, Eisenhower decided to provide military assistance to Pakistan as part of the Dulles-inspired Baghdad Pact, which Pakistan had joined. Cold War was at India's doorsteps. Alarmed and miffed, Nehru government looked to Moscow for a beef-up. Kremlin obliged. Both Premier Nikolai Bulganin and Communist Party's first secretary Nikita Khrushchev became state guests of New Delhi in the summer and autumn of 1955 respectively. Khrushchev even visited Kashmir as an endorsement of India's position. Whatever little military support was provided during the 1962 war with China was duly encashed by the Americans by forcing India to have talks with Pakistan on Kashmir. The years of humiliation were building up. While sharing the PL-480 wheat, the conditions around the ship-to-mouth supplies hardly built any political capital for the United States in India. In the 1965 war, Indian armed forces faced a better-equipped Pakistan army with its Patton tanks and the Pakistan Air Force with cutting-edge F-86 Sabres and Starfighters, both supplied by the Americans. Indian Air Force struggled with the archaic World War II vintage Vampires and Gnats. Opting for Russian MiGs became a natural choice that the Soviets were even willing to transfer technology for and set up manufacturing shop floor in India. That made the decision a no-brainer. By the time of 1971 war, Washington had Nixon-Kissinger duo setting sights on Beijing. And like in the case of Nehru, a hands-off Indira Gandhi did not help the American cause. While the Simla agreement was welcomed, the future was clearly Islamabad. Last episode, in profiling the rogue Pakistani atom bomb, I had explained and you understood how America winged or looked the other way as Pakistan built its nuclear arsenal, stealing, thieving, begging around the world through the AQ Khan network. If anything, it is America that has rubbed India the wrong way, and not vice versa, as Lutnick alleged in that hectoring conversation in Washington this week. As Pakistan kept building its American war machine, the Moscow-New Delhi distance kept shrinking. there was a cultural spillover too. I remember my grandfather talking effusively about the Russian way of life. As a 70s kid, I recall stories of Rakesh Sharma going to space on board Soyuz rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Russian youth festivals would come to my school and not the American ones till the coming of cable TV in early 1990s. You get the drift. It was only post-liberalization that a sizable Indian-American community got America into our drawing rooms via TV. It was only post-9/11 that the American establishment realized the costs of indulgence with Pakistan and started a slow pivot to India. It was only after Indian economy hit the US dollar $1 trillion mark sometime in 2005 that corporate America started having a serious look at India and dehyphenation with Pakistan began. It was only after realizing the consequences of the rise of China that America opened the vault of its war machine in the early 2010s to India. After this shift only, the United States has thought of diluting its position on selling its military hardware with shorter fine print of conditions attached. It is still not a free hand of the Russian kind. One only needs to look at the delay in deliveries of the GE-414 engines for the Tejas light combat aircraft to understand how complex military cooperation can be with the Americans. But with agreements like the BECA on geospatial intelligence and satellite maps sharing, LEMOA on logistics and COMCASA on communications, there's more openness now for sure. As Prime Minister Modi said while addressing a joint sitting of the US Congress in 2016, the two nations have overcome hesitations of history.
More than 15 years ago, Prime Minister Vajpayee stood here and gave a call to step out of the shadow of agitation of the past. The pages of our friendship since then tell a remarkable story. Today, our relationship has overcome the hesitations of history.
In a way, it's a measure of the distance traveled that in Lutnick's mind, the history behind those hesitations has got erased, which in turn is getting reflected in the number of American platforms that now find place in India's war machine. From the M777 howitzers and 6-hour rifles with Army to the PH surveillance aircrafts with both the IAF and the Navy, to the deals in the making on the Harpoons, Javelins and Strikers and even F-35s. The long-range drones from General Atomics, the deal for which was signed early this year, takes total Indian defense purchases from America to over US $24 billion in the last 7 years alone. Parallelly, between 2010 and 2025, the Russian component in India's defense imports has tapered off from a steep 76% to 36% now. This is also a reflection of reduced Russian capacities to service export commitments owing to their own ongoing war with Ukraine. Instead of cribbing, Mr. Lutnick could rather focus on this opportunity with little more transparency on the part of the Americans. The delay in supply of G414 engines was inexplicable, hopefully the first of which would land in India this month. That brings me to the latest round of how Trump administration is rubbing India the wrong way. And it better stop. Let's move to the segment 2 for that.
This is a tremendous opportunity for economic growth and innovation in our financial sector, and will really go a long way. I think it's going to be a tremendous, we feel like pioneers in a way, of tremendous method of growth.
This was President Donald Trump speaking at an official cryptocurrency summit in the month of March. Hosting top crypto players from the world at the White House, Trump made his crypto love official, signaling a major policy shift in the United States on digital assets. the Biden administration had made sure that crypto remained constraints-bound and distant from any legitimacy and legal acceptance as a currency of exchange. Things changed with the transition, and on taking over, Trump appointed a crypto czar in David Sachs, a Silicon Valley tech bro and a close friend of now estranged first buddy Elon Musk. Sachs announced setting up of a Bitcoin crypto reserve, which Trump signed into an executive order the same day. The summit and the announcements immediately raised eyebrows about conflict of interest. A majority of the summit participants were crypto entrepreneurs who were heavily invested into the digital assets world and had heavily funded Trump's campaign for the White House second term. As per the American Federal Election Commission, crypto industry accounted for roughly half of the total corporate donations during the 2024 presidential campaign, and almost all of those went to Trump. In the first couple of months of Trump coming to power, the Bitcoin increased its value by over 40%. Trump also announced a cryptocurrency in his own name, the Trump meme coin. There's a cryptocurrency in the name of the First Lady, Melania, as well. Trump administration has dropped regulatory investigation against some of the crypto investors who funded his campaign, and banking restrictions have been lifted. Small investor be damned. So far, so good. What happens to Americans is their problem. This was in the month of March. Exactly a week after the White House event, Pakistan set up its National Crypto Council, a body charged with integrating blockchain technology and digital assets into its economy. Its head, Bilal bin Saqib, was given Minister of State rank. Seemed innocuous, even funny, given Pakistan has below par IT talent or infrastructure and is a power deficit country going by media reports. Its annual energy import bill is $7 billion. This is significant because crypto is an energy guzzling asset, based as it is on data farms consuming power in gigawatts to determine the inherent worth of those currencies. Listen to this noted Pakistani journalist first.
यहाँ हमारी हुकूमत ने 2 डील्स की हैं अमेरिकन्स के साथ, एक मिनरल डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर इन केपी एंड दूसरी डील की है ऑन क्रिप्टो करेंसी, और दोनों के अंदर इल्ज़ाम यही है कि ट्रंप के फाइनेंशियल इंटरेस्ट भी हैं और ये तकलीफ़ हो रही है लोगों को. सो आई थिंक पाकिस्तान शुड टेक एडवांटेज ऑफ दिस. मगर मेरा ख्याल है ये वाइट हाउस के साथ इतना इनको करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, इनको स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट के साथ करने की ज़रूरत है. बिकॉज वाइट हाउस और स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट कभी कभी थोड़े बहुत डाइवर्ट करते हैं. रोज़मर्रा की बातें, डेली इश्यूज़ जो होते हैं वो स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट डील करता है. ओवरऑल पॉलिसी जो है वो अनाउंस कर देता है ट्रंप. मगर ट्रंप को आपको पता ही है ना कि ट्रंप और स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट के दरमियान भी बड़ी टेंशन है.
This is how the penny dropped or the cookie crumbled. Let me share more details of the plan Najam Sethi is talking about. Pakistan hosted a delegation of World Liberty Financial, a Trump family-backed crypto firm, on April 23 in Islamabad. This was just a day after the Pahalgam terror attack. The delegation was led by Zach Witkoff, son of Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. The firm has the stakes of Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Leaving nothing to imagination, Witkoff was given an audience with Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. On May 21, Pakistan established a Digital Assets Authority for execution of blockchain infrastructure. And on May 24, a high-level meeting took place. Guess what? At the General Headquarters, Rawalpindi, chaired by General Asim Munir. If you had any doubts that this was a finance ministry domain, this should put that to rest. On May 25, Pakistan government announced reserving 2,000 megawatt of power supply for crypto industry for Bitcoin mining rigs and data centers. Imagine, amid day-long blackouts and collapsing power grids, it wants to reserve 2,000 megawatt for crypto. Within a week of this meeting on June 2, just a few days back, Pakistan announced setting up of a Bitcoin reserve, mirroring the Trump move. And a day later, which is this Tuesday, the chief of the Pakistani Crypto Council landed in Washington, D.C. to strike more deals, where he was given an audience by the executive director in the White House dealing with all things crypto, Robert Hines. Knowing the kind of deep investments Trump administration has in crypto, from Trump himself to his sons and son-in-law, from Vice President J.D. Vance to Steve Witkoff, and of course Mr. Howard Lutnick himself, it would be foolhardy to believe that the deal between Pakistan and World Liberty Financial is just about bitcoins. There's a clear give and take, howsoever opaque or denied, which, by the way, it has not been. We cannot lose sight of the fact that in one of its first decisions that had geopolitical consequences for India, Trump released US $397 million for the maintenance of American F-16's fleet with the Pakistan Air Force in the month of February. In March, Trump praised Pakistan during his Capitol address for helping nab the Kabul bomber who had killed 13 American soldiers on August 15, 2021, when America was leaving Afghanistan. Pakistan does not want to go into the digital age via information technology, software, coding, artificial intelligence, or semiconductor chips. It knows all this is above its pay grade, as they say. But via cryptocurrencies, it can open doors to a transactional Trump White House, apt for a crypto state run by a jihadi army. Mr. Lutnick needs to know who is rubbing whom the wrong way. Moving on to the third and final segment.
हम आए थे, आज हमारे कश्मीरी पंडित भाई और हमारी बहनें यहाँ आते हैं साल में एक बार, और हम उनका इस्तेकबाल करने आए थे और उनको ये बताने आए थे कि जम्मू कश्मीर उनके बगैर नामुकम्मल है। और जो पीडीपी का मानना है हमेशा कि जम्मू कश्मीर बंदूकों से हल नहीं हो सकता, मिलिट्री सोल्यूशन नहीं है, मिलिटेंट की बंदूक सोल्यूशन नहीं है, यहाँ एक पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस होना चाहिए।
On the face of it, what Mehbooba Mufti said in this soundbite on return of Kashmiri Pandits is not new. She was visiting the Kheer Bhavani temple on the occasion of the Jyeshta Ashtami, an important annual religious ritual for the displaced Kashmiri Pandit community. And so for the politicians from the valley. It helps Mehbooba, politically speaking, that the temple is in Gandarbal, family pocket borough of the rival Abdullahs. Quoting from government figures, Mehbooba said that there were 65,000 Kashmiri Pandit families approximately living outside the valley, and that they were entitled to return with dignity. She followed it up with a written memorandum that she submitted to the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, marking her first meeting with the LG in 5 years since abrogation of Article 370 in 2019. The proposal talks of allotting half Kanal, or roughly 500 square meters of land, to each returning family to set up home in their district of origin. In her note, she also termed the return of Pandits a moral imperative and a societal responsibility. Not to be left behind, Farooq Abdullah, the National Conference patriarch, expressed similar sentiments while visiting the century-old shrine the same day.
माता वैष्णो देवी के यहाँ भी लोगों से घर छोड़ो, वहाँ भी माता गुजार यात्रा शुरू होने वाली बहुत से लोग।
It is commendable whosoever talks about the return of the Kashmiri Pandits to the valley. The reactions of the community have been mixed, like this one.
सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज मिलके बिल पास करें कि हम स्टैंडिंग कमेटी की जो रिपोर्ट है 2010 की, उसको हम इन प्रिंसिपल एग्री करते हैं। हम जो जेएंडके के हाई कोर्ट के ऑर्डर्स जो इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हो रहे हैं उनको हम इंप्लीमेंट करवाएंगे। हम जो अपनी जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट सेल्स का एक्ट है वहां पर उस प्रिंसिपल में उसको इंप्लीमेंट करवाएंगे। तो हम भी कहेंगे कि नहीं, एक समाज है, एंड दीज ऑल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स जो भी सियासी लोग हैं या पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स हैं, दे आर कंसर्न्ड अबाउट पर्टिकुलर कम्युनिटी, द माइनॉरिटीज ऑफ द कश्मीर।
एंड देन दिस वन।
हम स्वागत करते हैं ऐसे स्टेटमेंट का जो पॉजिटिव हो, इन फेवर ऑफ कश्मीरी पंडित। सो अगर सेंस प्रिवेल हो जाता है पूरे लीडरशिप को, मैं तो चाहता हूं कि ऑनरेबल होम मिनिस्टर, ऑनरेबल प्रधानमंत्री जी के माध्यम से एक प्रोसेस क्रिएट किए जाए जिसमें ऑनरेबल चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब जम्मू कश्मीर के और अपोजिशन लीडर्स जम्मू कश्मीर के और साथ में कश्मीरी पंडितों की लीडरशिप उनके साथ में बैठ के, और जो मेजॉरिटी कम्युनिटी है यहाँ पर, मैं समझता हूँ कि उनकी भी बहुत बड़ी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। अगर कश्मीरी पंडित आएगा तो उसको यहाँ पर ही कंपोजिट कल्चर में आना है।
It is clear from these reactions that trust would be long time coming. The sword of terrorism hangs heavy every moment, as Pahalgam proved. You are just one slip away from a tragedy. Irrespective of the security grid, a terror event is not remote. It is a clear and present danger. It is easy for Omar Abdullah to cycle with Z+ security in the streets of Pahalgam. It helps that he knows the Kalma and would pass the Kalma test. Even as his rabid MP, Aga Sayyid Ruhullah Mehdi, keeps the pot boiling with communal spin. Just this week, the agencies carried out a massive sweep of overground workers and hybrid terrorists, commoners by day, terrorists by night, or providing logistical support to terrorists with guns. The ecosystem that keeps Pakistan's terror machine well supplied unfortunately continues to thrive in the valley. There can be a via media before a possible final return in the future. The Kashmiri Pandit diaspora should return with full strength to the valley every year, either for the Kheer Bhavani Mela or the Sharda Temple, or just to Srinagar and reconnect politically, economically and culturally with their roots right there. That one annual event would be worth 10 seminars in Delhi or elsewhere. Somewhere a beginning has to be made. Thanks for watching.
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
पहाड़ों में हाइकिंग शिप भी बन सकती है।
विमल में गुलिस्तां की ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुले तो जी ललचाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की जुबान में खुद को ऐसा डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबान कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं ना? विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल और जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।
स्वागत है भाई, स्वागत है।
बुलेट ट्रेन